Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Travis Chambers of Chamber Media for part 2 of our interview. Travis has been a keynote speaker at the Google Growth Summit, VidCon, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and has also been featured in Inc., Entrepreneur, Adweek, Huffington Post, among others. Travis led distribution and content strategy for YouTube's #1 ad of the decade, featuring Kobe and Messi, with 140 million views, and took Old Navy from 2 million to 8 million Facebook likes while at Crispin Porter and Boguski, working with brands like Kraft, Vitamin Water, Amazon, and others. Now, Ken, last week we aired part 1 of this episode, which was absolutely awesome. This portion of the interview, we're diving deep into Facebook ads and had a lot of great key takeaways. Was curious what some of yours were.
Yeah, this was part 2 of the Travis Chambers interview, and it delivered just like the last week's. Travis, one of the things that stood out to me was Travis breaks down what he refers to as the brain. And I won't dive too deep into that. You need to listen to the episode. It really makes sense. But what I will share is that his team did a really deep dive into Facebook ads, and they found 7 specific types of Facebook ads that really work, and they focused strictly on those. He breaks them down in the podcast, and I know for one we're gonna be implementing that into our business. David, what did you like about the episode?
Yeah, the way I would say, like with my background being in accounting, oftentimes there's friction between the accounting and the marketing people. It's just I truly feel like brains are wired differently, and he broke down the 7 aspects of marketing into categories which literally any type of content fit into. And so he dives into this, and he explained it in a way that helped this accountant's brain really wrap my mind around it. So this was an awesome interview, and one you're definitely going to want to tune in onto the episode. So let's pivot a little bit and get into advertising. So you say you're the Henry Ford of video production, which is quite a claim. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, so Henry Ford had this issue where cars were really expensive to create, and most people just couldn't afford one. But at that time, if you had a car, you were kind of the king. You could get to places quickly. Your capacity for economic development progression was multiplied. So he built this supply chain, and he figured out ways to verticalize. I mean, he was kind of a pioneer of verticalization, of taking multiple technologies, putting them in the same thing, not necessarily having to use tons of different contractors and different parts, but bring it all in-house. I mean, Elon Musk is like the Henry Ford 2.0 with what he's done with Tesla. Tesla is now insuring their own cars. That's a verticalization, right? So I thought, I was at these creative agencies where they were making these TV commercials, and they're paying like $300,000-400,000 grand just in creative fees alone. Once you take a whole year contract, like Applebee's would spend $4 or $5 million a year, and they would get like 6 or 7 30-second TV spots. But that doesn't even include the production costs. Production costs were another $1 million, $2 million. And then they would take this creative that was written by creatives who only care about winning awards to further their career, which is further propagated by the in-house manager of the brand, who also only cares about winning awards to further their career. So no one really cares about the KPIs or the outcome of the business, because it's a corporate lifer working with a corporate lifer. It's a bad combination. And at these bigger brands, the founder's usually not involved. And you've got shareholders that are just corporate lifers they're also, so you just have this bad setup. And so they take this creative that's not optimized to drive real results in any measurable way. And then it gets sent over to a media agency, like a Starcom MediaVest, with a bunch of other corporate lifers who don't really care. So it's just like you have all these parts that are working together for no purpose. And all they really care about is winning awards at the end of the day. It's just a big scam, in my opinion. And so I thought, well, I'm going to bring all this under one roof And creative is going to talk to production, and production is going to talk to media buying. And we're going to have all those people under the same roof. And we started to create like a conveyor belt in a system where the concept that we're making is completely based on how it's going to be ran as an ad. And now we have accountability to how it performs, and extreme accountability. And we were able to do that because technological advancements with Facebook and YouTube platforms is you can actually track sales with Google search as well, and Amazon, things like that. So now you can actually really track the results far beyond what you could do with TV, which was mostly based on Nielsen surveys and stuff, asking people if they saw an ad or not, or just looking at overall sales. And that just kind of like grew and grew and grew. And we're to the point now where we're the most cost-effective, infrastructure for making scripts, creative, production, and ad buying, and having it all gelled together. And that's why we've just exploded in the last 2 years, is the market has finally caught up to what we're building. And people now all want to buy a Model T Ford because of the advantage it gives them. And so that's why I say we've kind of created the Henry Ford line production of video production, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. And I, Travis, I worked in a corporate environment for 2 decades, and I totally get it. Like you're saying, someone's trapped in a corporate bubble. They're worrying about awards or their career versus like serving. And it sounds like you've brought everything under one umbrella to kind of serve. So I really like that. One thing that's a recent change this year was, I guess the tracking, which you kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. So what, Apple's iPhone, they've updated to iOS 15, which has kind of smashed some of the tracking a little bit and the media buying and conversion. How have your team kind of went around that, or what do you guys, what's the workaround for that tracking conversions?
The last 6-7 years, as things have become trackable, people have become track obsessed. We call it get your head out of your ROAS. So ROAS stands for return on ad spend.
I like it.
Get your head out of your ROAS. So people have tried to build these new companies that have no fundamental understanding of branding. And they have no fundamental understanding of how hard and how long it takes to grow a real brand in this country. Because until 10 years ago, you just couldn't do it. You had to have tons of money. You had to get into retail, big box retailers, and you had to spend like crazy on marketing and then just hope that it translated into sales. And then you had some people who got some organic search rankings on Google and were able to grow some companies. And then all of a sudden, everyone thought, I can just go direct to consumer. And as long as I get a 2 or 3 to 1 return on my marketing, then I'm going to be rich. Well, there was a 2 or 3 year window where that was true. Well, that window is closed. And it's very difficult to get SEO rankings. It's very difficult to get a top ranking on Amazon. It's extremely difficult to get a viral video on Facebook or YouTube. It's very difficult to get press because press is journalism kind of died. So you don't get a lot out of that either. And so that's where the iOS privacy update has come in and really cleaned house. That for people that don't know how to do branding. So we've always focused on, you have to build brand while you're selling. You can't only do brand and you can't only do direct response. You have to do both. And that's always been our focus, and our belief is merging those two worlds, the late night infomercial with the Super Bowl commercial. And so we have fared really well through the iOS update, but it's because we're very creative focused. So we've built these, built momentum and these kind of groundswells through really great videos. So instead of someone just seeing an image ad that's not that compelling, they have already watched like 3 or 4 minutes of videos from a brand. So that means they're deep into the consideration period. And so when iOS hit, we were able to take that approach of a big umbrella brand awareness. And then our videos do such a good job of weeding people out who are never going to be customers that we never have to pay for those people. I mean, we're paying like 3 or 4 cents for their view, but we're not paying for $2 for their click. The old way is just get as many people to your website as possible, but and you spend $2 a click when it used to be 50 cents, you're going to run out of money. So creative has been the answer to the privacy update. Good creative. And we've only seen 4% of our accounts have lower performance from the iOS privacy update. And I have heard of other agencies and other brands that have just completely been wiped off the map by the privacy update.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point about, we've heard some horror stories of it just absolutely crippling companies. And I think you do make a good point about, the branding piece of it that's often overlooked by likely a lot of MBAs whose brain is organized into rows and columns. Not everything fits into an Excel sheet. So
I
what?
I think the days of like starting an ecom brand with like 20 grand is over. That period's gone.
Can we dive in? Can we dive into this? Why would you say? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, so Dollar Shave Club spent $10,000 to make the Dollar Shave Club YouTube ad, and they probably spent, I don't know, 50, 60 grand on their supply chain and their warehouse and whatever else, maybe more than that. But they were able to run these ads for nothing. I mean, YouTube ads were so cheap back then. And so the adoption of YouTube and the viewership was way far beyond the number of advertisers that were there. So there was a real estate grab in the Wild West that happened in e-commerce over the last 15 years. And Google search was really kind of the start of it. The .com bubble was really the start. Well, the real estate rush is over. Like Oklahoma's been claimed, Texas has been claimed, the West has been won. And so you can't just drop ship your way into a brand anymore. You can't just spend 5 or 10 grand on Facebook ads and get it to scale. It's too competitive. It's too expensive. So we're actually seeing like a reversion back into what it took to start a company in this country 15 years ago. You have to have significant resources. You've got to have 20, 30 grand to spend just on your social ads just to get them to start working, because the algorithms need 30 conversions before they can even start optimizing to what you're doing. I mean, even with our own ads, Chamber Media ads, we used to be all in like lookalikes and really crazy like anonymous third-party targeting. Now we just have blanket targeting. We're just targeting people that like Gary Vaynerchuk and Peloton and Nike and golf and things like that. And it's working. But you can't spend 10 grand on people at like Nike and get results. You can't do it. You got to be spending, we're spending 100, 120 grand a month. So that's my message to people who think that I can have a good idea and start a D2C e-commerce brand. Don't do it unless you've got 100 grand, because you're going to get crushed. And it just doesn't work like it used to. You can't just throw up an Amazon link anymore and rank number 1 on Amazon. It's not going to happen.
Very good. Very good. So talking about Facebook ads, what are some of the best converting ads as we sit here talking in 2021?
So we've got 7 different types of ads that we have found that work. So it was really bothering me that, and it always has bothered me, that creatives and that myself, that we would just come up with these ideas for ads because we thought they were good ideas based on our experience, but no one really knew. And it drove me nuts when we were pitching like a vitamin water or a Kraft mac and cheese. And it was really just their opinion versus our opinion, but no one's opinion really had any weight to what creative should be. There was no quantitative approach to creative, and that bothered me. So what we did is we looked at all the ad spend that we had managed, about 100 million, and we took all that creative and we put it into a database. And then what we did is we went and looked at the top 1% of the top 2,000 Shopify stores ads. We put them all into database. We hired some machine learning engineers and some virtual assistants, and they codified this whole database just like you would if you were developing a taxonomy for the canine kingdom or the kingdom of mushrooms or fungi, right? Here's fungi, here's like 8 different families of fungi, And then here's 100 species each of all these things. And then here are all the regions. So we did this taxonomy exercise with this database, and that was we coded and identified 100 different types of ads. And obviously there's thousands of different types. But what we found is they fit into 7 categories, which was really interesting. And the categories that we settled on, and I might miss a few of them here, sometimes I forget. 1 was spokesperson anchor. 2 was product demo. 3 was social proof. 4 was a dynamic ad. 5 was a unboxing. 6 was a case study. And 7 was a lifestyle ad. Those are the 7 categories that we identified. And so what we did is we basically built this approach called the 7 foundational ads, where if you make all 7 of these types of ads, and then you make variations within those based on the performance you're getting back, you have a really high likelihood. And when we started using this process, our success rate per piece of creative went from 50% to 80%. So what that means is we've now cut down on testing in our ad spend, we've cut on ad waste, and now we've also cut down our creative and production waste as well. And this database that we made, we called the brain. And we kind of took it one step further, is we can't really sell all this data because of Facebook terms and stuff. But what we've done is we've built a front end UX called Unicorn Ads, unicorncopy.ai. And it's a real AI tool that we've built on GPT-3, which is the open source AI platform. And you can actually access all the information to this database through copywriting. So you can go in there, plug in your landing page, and this tool, this unicorncopy.ai tool, will actually write ads for you, which is pretty cool. And it will give you all sorts of insights. You can look up by your industry or your keyword. If you want to look up sneakers, or you want to look up like women's apparel or coffee or whatever you want, it'll also give you best practices, and it will tell you what kind of ads you should make. So you may even be able to bypass making those 7 ads. You maybe only want to make 4 of those, the ones that perform best in your industry. So that's kind of the overall thing that we found with this, ad study.
That's really cool. Yeah. So anybody listening, we'll have that in the show notes for sure. That tool where you can go and plug in your whatever space you're in, and just get the quick tips of how to get rid of all the trash and get right to it. So thanks for sharing that, Travis. One more quick question before we pivot into more of Chamber Media. So what strategies can people use to triple the revenue of a multi-million-dollar company?
I've always said that sales solves all problems. And what I have seen is that most businesses have a problem with getting sales acquisition channels. If you can get 2 or 3 reliable, predictable acquisition channels, then you will build a multi-million-dollar brand. It's just a matter of time. You even look at Chamber Media, my own business. I was getting clients for about 5 years through LinkedIn posts, press features, humping people's legs at conferences, speaking at conferences. Man, it was just like anything we could do. Once we started running ads for ourselves and we released lower priced options, it just exploded. It took a life on of its own. We were able to afford great managers, business managers, talent, better writers, better producers, better everything. And now we're just kind of like on this trajectory all on our own, just out into this blue ocean here. So that's the way to do it. And there's so many different ways to develop reliable acquisition channels. My favorites happen to just be ads, because they sell while you're asleep at night. And some people try to build brands on organic social media followings. They have viral TikToks. They have a YouTube channel. That's a great way if you don't have any money to get from nowhere to somewhere. but it's never the way to get from somewhere to 5-10 million a year, predictably and reliably. And even if you do get to 5 to 10 million a year based on that, it's going to collapse at some point. And for that, some things for that organic is SEO rankings, organic SEO rankings. Sometimes it's influencer. You had some organic influencers, or maybe you had some press features that you had. But that's what we've seen over and over again. Those things aren't sustainable. You have got to be running Amazon ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Google search ads, Pinterest, TikTok ads, TV ads, Hulu ads. I don't care. But the only businesses that I've seen that become real institutional big brands, it's because they figure out advertising. And people they think they can build businesses off of referrals or word of mouth, or the product is just good enough to do it on its own. And unless you want to go trudge in the MLM slime of the world, you've got to figure out advertising. I mean, look at Geico, right? Geico is one of the single-handed reasons, in my opinion, that Warren Buffett's, one of the richest men in the world. I don't want to discredit him, but I don't think Warren Buffett's the smartest guy on the planet, to be honest. I think put him and Musk in a room, and Musk will just walk circles around the guy. But he just figured out these real basic things. For Geico, you just get these TV ads and infomercials, and he got the Gecko campaign, and he got the Martin agency, and he just got this message that worked. And you guys know what the message is, right?
I don't.
What is it? What is it? 25 seconds could save you 25% on your
25% or more on your car insurance. Yeah. By switching to Geico. There we go.
Jingle. Yeah.
25% or more, but that's it. Warren Buffett and his board, they just literally spend like $4 billion a year telling people, just beating them over the head with a bat, mercilessly. 25% or more, 25% or more. And that's why. And RC Willie, right, is a big part of his thing too. And that's all based on financing, right? It's not even about selling furniture, but that's what you have to figure out, is you've got to figure out the advertising side of your business. And that's why the most successful founders are never inventors. They're always marketers, in my opinion. I can't tell you how many times I've seen brands call us and they've got some genius invention, some amazing product, but they suck at marketing. And they're not even good enough at marketing to know who to hire that's good at marketing, right? So I've seen it. I've seen these founders that are brilliant marketers, and they have the stupidest products you've ever seen, but they just dominate because they know how to advertise.
Yeah, let's jump into Chamber Media. So let's talk about like the ideal client. Who does Chamber Media serve, and what size of company would be a good fit for Chamber Media?
So our sweet spot is brands that are doing like 500 grand in revenue to like 20 million. That's usually the place where they have started doing advertising. They've found maybe one acquisition channel, and they're scaling, and they've got a good product. But they maybe don't have like a big in-house team yet. They haven't maybe gotten all the pieces figured out yet. That is a really good time to get in touch with us. That's where we take brands from, the 500 grand to the 5 million, or the 5 million to the 20, or in Mr. Cool's case, 10 to 200 million. They're going to do over 200 million this year. And we're running 80% of their marketing spend for 3 years now. So that's the sweet spot. We've got some brands that come that are smaller than that we have some success with, but they definitely need to have some certain level of things worked out. And if they don't have a few things worked out, they better have some kind of funding to take the learning curve, and to take some losses to figure things out.
Okay. So a lot of our listeners are e-commerce sellers and specifically Amazon sellers. And so say someone comes to you with, say they're doing about $1 million in revenue on Amazon, and, largely sales are driven by PPC, and they know that they have a blind spot in marketing. What are going to be some areas that you guys generally start with? What's the marketing starter pack, or is it unique to each company?
Yeah, so that means to me is they've got a very weak brand. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to do branding on Amazon. It's just a sales page, it's very difficult to build a brand just on website. Like, people don't like to read. And then PPC, right? You're ripe for the picking anytime someone else just wants to bid more than you. You could lose your spot at any moment. And so if you're running on an Amazon store and you're driven by PPC, you're kind of living on a yacht with a hole on it. So what you really need to do is you just need to get 2 or 3 other acquisition channels. And those could be influencer marketing, probably most likely through Pinterest and TikTok. That's like the cheapest way to get influencer reach. You know, YouTube influencers are pretty overpriced now. You could get into retail or online retail. We've seen some brands that have crushed it. We run ads and they crush it in retail. And yeah, there's all sorts of different ways. So what we would do is we'd come in and we'd say, all right, we're going to make, whether you're in our MVP program where we make 4 different ads a month, or whether you're in our mini anchor program where we're going to make a 1-minute video with a bunch of retargeting ads, or whether you're in the anchor program where we make a really big production with 6 videos underneath it. We're going to make the creative that we think is going to perform the best. We're going to do an audit with the brain. So we're going to pull in everything that you've done in the past. We're also going to pull in all the historical data from your industry to do some predictive modeling of what specific ads work in your specific industry. And then we get all that creative together, and then we start running ads. And then at that point, we're just looking at what are the winning messages, what are the losers. We cut those out, we double down on the winning messages, and we make variations of those ads on an ongoing basis. And you have this blend of bigger production videos and this blend of smaller retargeting videos. And what's really interesting is we've seen that the production value of an ad correlates with the longevity of the ad. So a larger production ad might not convert better than a small little 2-second video, but it will last longer. So what happens is you want to have these big anchor videos that run, and they on average, they last 14 months, the big anchor videos. The mini anchors on average last about 6 months. And then these smaller, 5, 10, 15-second retargeting videos and images, they usually last about 2.5 months. And this is on an aggressive spend. This is someone that's spending over 40, 50 grand a month, something like that. And so that's what you want to have, is you just want to have this video layering strategy where you've got this big brand thing that you're doing maybe every quarter, something new, something big that grabs people's attention and that they'll watch multiple times and that they'll remember. And then you've got this smaller stuff that's a little more promotional, maybe a little more aggressive. And then you've got the stuff underneath it, like discounts and free shipping and, limited time only and supply is running out, whatever those things are. And you have this layered thing. And what happens is it starts to compound. These creative assets, they start to compound. You start to be able to double down on the messages that are working, tell stories in different ways. And that's how you build a powerhouse on the advertising side. And that's what we've been able to do for dozens of brands now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. Travis, anything else you want to cover before we get into the fire round?
No, man, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. What's your favorite book?
Okay, no, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Awesome. What are your hobbies?
Mountain biking, running, cycling, cars.
What is one thing that you do not miss about working for the man?
Feeling like my potential is limited on a daily basis.
Okay. What do you think sets apart successful e-commerce entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Grit. Grit is the secret ingredient to everything. If you have grit and enough self-belief and you have a below average IQ, you can pretty much do anything. And by anything, I mean like 80% of things.
Yeah, Travis, how can people get a hold of you?
So I'm really active on LinkedIn. So always could follow there. I'm also, I'm hard to get a hold of on LinkedIn because of the connection thing, but I'm really easy to get a hold of on Instagram, which is Travis _ Chambers.
Okay, great. And we will post links to all of that in the show notes, but really appreciate your time. This was an awesome podcast, and look forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, guys. It's amazing.
All right. Thanks, Travis.
Thanks, Travis.